Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back on the EOSwriter special guests, and today, as you can see, I'll point over there, we have a very special guest. We have Douglas Horn, who is the chief architect of Telos. A lot of us probably know what Telos is because it's an EOSIO built chain, but I'll just hand it over to you quickly, Douglas. So just a brief explanation, just from yourself. So how did you get involved with, Telos?
Well, I got involved with Telos. Hey, thanks so much. Really happy to be here. I love your podcast. So I got involved with Telos first by getting involved with EOS. We were part of the EOS mainnet launch group as something called EOS Americas, and just always believed in the EOS dream and wanted to, especially certain parts like the ability for peer-to-peer governance and things like that. And when EOS came out, there were some, still totally love the concept, love the technology, but there were some things that back from the very beginning, when it was first announced and I was first involved in it and interested in it, that didn't come to pass, like the governance and some other things. There's some questions about plutocracy. And so
we'll get into that in a minute. We'll do a deep dive into that.
There was a chance to address that, right? So I wanted to address that. And when I sort of asked some people if anyone else thought that was an issue, enough people said, yeah, we should do something about that we decided to launch Telos.
Because I think I've got like an intermediate level of knowledge. It's like, from the beginning, I'm not an expert, but I've seen from the beginning, you've kind of like, you're doing things obviously a lot differently to EOS, but like a lot of things are really, really cool. And it's much better, probably better than what EOS are doing at the moment. And you've got a little bit more of a testing ground for it. But before we dive into all that, because we can, just for like the viewers who have no idea about even EOS, right? Just like really simple. So what is Telos to its core, right? So obviously what blockchain does it use? Obviously we know it's EOSIO blockchain, but how would you describe Telos in the most simple terms?
Right, great question. So Telos is a blockchain, and thanks to EOS technology, it's the world's fastest blockchain and highest capacity blockchain, tied with the other sister chains. But it's a real unique point of service here. What no one else does is it allows people to be community government and governance of the chain. It's actually the most advanced governance blockchain in the world. And that governance, and the only other ones that are even close tend to be governed by more like what I call the clergy, right? The developers and whatnot. And Telos is a blockchain that's focused on giving the token holders and the regular users a chance to govern and drive where they want the blockchain to go. And that we feel is really well aligned with the needs of mass market consumers, which are going to be coming to blockchain really soon. And they're going to want to have a say about how basically the new internet works, right? We don't get much say about how the current internet works, but we could get the say in how the new internet's going to work, and we could be driving it, right? Not have to be a programmer to do so.
Yeah, that's why we're all into crypto, and that's why we're all into blockchain, because the underlying tech of crypto, everyone kind of thinks just cryptocurrency is like this coin you make, but it's the blockchain, which you just alluded to, is serious, like amazing tech where we can decide what happens on the chain. And let's get into the really important thing we made this video for. You'll probably see it in the title of this video. You're probably wondering what's going on with the Telos announcement. This is a big deal, guys. So Telos have just released, this is like the first video you've done on it, a brand new Telos economic plan. And like, there's so much stuff in this plan, I won't even try and tackle it. I know like the most things, there's lots of inflation differences and RECs and worker proposal fund changes and stuff. But I'll just give the floor to you, Douglas. What is the new announcement? What's going on? What's it all about?
Great, thank you. So Telos is launching an economic development plan. That means that we are aware of the fact that while the governance is going great, and while the underlying tech is going great, and while dApps are coming onto Telos, we haven't given anything yet for speculators to be excited about. That's partly because we're so excited about the technology itself, but the reality of blockchain is you got to give people a reason to invest at a speculator level, and so we're addressing this. Telos has pioneered ways to use our community funds well, But we find ourselves, since we never did a ICO, with a shortage of funds to use, even though we have a way to vote for them, right? EOS wasn't able to vote for how to apply their funds, and so they ended up burning them. We have a great way. It's really paying dividends already for the whole EOSIO community, and things like WordProof, which is tying together EOSCO and the massive WordPress publisher community, right? So this is fantastic. That was actually funded entirely through word for proposal systems on Telos, right? So that's an example of the things we can do. So now
I think I spoke to Sebastian van der Lans about that. He was saying how it's basically got it off the ground, really running. It's really working.
Yeah, he wrote a great article that he referenced this in, is very kind, where he says that this is the future of funding open source software.
Yeah.
And he's a real leader in that field. And so when he says something like that, I think a lot of people
super interesting. 100%. I agree.
So but if we fund a lot of stuff, that means that there's, that these people are going to get where they're going to be voted their Telos. They're going to need to sell it. And then that creates a lot of sell pressure, and we need to create a commensurate buy pressure, right? So that because otherwise people are just going to sell their tokens and the price will go down and down. So we realize that to close the circle on this and to make it really work, we need to give people a reason to buy. Well, I've been in crypto for quite a while, and one of the things I've learned pretty early is that, or relatively speaking, is that that people will buy if people want basically some kind of inflation, or no inflation, right? They want a reward, right? And that makes sense. So here we find ourselves at a time where Rex is coming in. We have this big fund that we had set up for exchanges for the tokens that were on exchanges, and it's untapped. We have 140 million tokens in there, and only about 400,000 have ever been claimed by BitPi. I think we need to rise to the level where the exchanges are excited enough about this, or the customers are excited enough about it to claim. And we haven't done that yet. So we got to pump up the price a little bit, and organically, not pump. We have to get it for the real reason, right? So what we're going to do is we're proposing that we take a regular draw from this unused fund, right? And apply it to a few different things. One, to the Telos work proposal system, which is doing so great on community voted proposals to build the whole EOSIO and Telos space. To the Telos Foundation, which has a mission of promoting Telos, doing conferences and hackathons and grants and marketing, right? To an economic development fund, which would do purposes like providing a liquidity pool, so that basically there's just more tokens to more organically trade, provide market making services, all kinds of things, pay exchange fees, basically build out the economic side of Telos. Probably continue to fund our free new account fund, right? We set aside funds for 2 million new accounts to be created for free on Telos, because we want to eliminate the friction of getting on. We think that's a real pain point for people, especially like in the developing world, or just who don't have a lot of money, and we don't want to separate them. That they're the future, right? So we can keep funding that. It's been all these things have been super successful for us. The block producer. So one big thing.
There's so much stuff. It's like obviously I've probably put the graphic on the screen for everyone to see. But yeah, carry on. There's so much stuff. Carry on.
Okay, so we also need to pay our block producers a little bit better. A block producer makes about $1,000 a month on Telos versus around $100,000 a month on EOS. And I'm not saying they should necessarily have parity, but it's right now it's below the economic cost. So basically, we're all mining at a loss. And for anyone who's lived through the last the last crypto winter, we're doing that, and so that can't last forever. So we need to give people a reason that they can afford to stay on as block producers. But then the thing I'm most excited about is it's going to take a certain amount of these funds, 1 million funds a month, and 1 million Telos a month, and flow them into our Rex fund. And what that means is anyone who stakes Rex can get a return. Like the returns on Rex are actually quite low on all the other chains, and Telos didn't even need it because at this point, because there's not that many dApps on there that it's creating that kind of pressure on resource costs.
Don't need the need for the resources at the minute.
Yeah, it's fine. It's very affordable. Also, we also had a really innovative way of doing RAM, which meant that there's no speculation of RAM. And so our RAM is very affordable, and our whole chain runs on 12 gigabytes of RAM, and nobody wants to speculate because we can go to 64 gigabytes at any time, right? So anyway, we've really managed a lot of things well, and now we're managing token price, right? We're providing a way for it to improve. So what that means is, like, there were in the Telos original snapshot, which is a snapshot we took after 1 month and we take regular snapshots. And that's been used by dApps for airdrops and things like that. That was about 50 million Telos in active accounts. So if 80% of those funds were staked into Rex, those people would get about a 30% annual return, which is crazy, right?
That's crazy. Yeah, I think it's 1% on EOS at the minute for the Rex, about 1%. So 38.
Yeah. And now if you said, okay, well, there's 200,000 actual Genesis accounts, Telos and Genesis accounts on Telos. What if all of those accounts, what if 80% of those accounts got on board, right? You would still get 7.5%, around, right? So, not down to the decimal, but, about 7.5%, almost 8%. That's a great return. And even if every Telos ever, right, is used, right, 351 million thereabouts right now, people would still get over 4% annual return.
Wow. That's never going to happen. You're not going to have every single Telos, which is going to be.
No, you're not, because so these things, there were like in the I don't know, people have seen like Masternodes or things like that. There's a lot of coins that have like they're just forks of something, right? They didn't do 6 months of additional work, and they don't have 25 developers. They're just basically going out as sort of a money grab, which we definitely are not.
We've seen them before. We've seen too many of those in the crypto space.
Yeah, so much. I mean, that's exactly the opposite of what Telos is about. But I mean, we did the hard way. We didn't get an ICO. We didn't do any of those things. There's a lot of benefits for that, but having money to spend is not one of them. So, but usually like 30%, like these kinds of returns are usually the kinds of returns you get on those things that don't have any technical backing, right? You don't get them on the world's most advanced governance blockchain, which is a lot of people are very interested in that, in Decred and Tezos and soon Telos. You don't get a chain that has great capacity, that's highest capacity, highest speed, due to EOSIO. You don't get those types of things. It's usually just a shitcoin, right? So I mean, let's be honest. So this is a way people can get this kind of return on a coin that's already super underpriced, and can be an ongoing way to reward the people who are engaging in Telos. And I'm going to kind of stop that, talking about that, because I feel like I'm shilling, and I'm not. I'm just excited. But the big thing is, usually when you have this kind of return, it means that there's inflation, right? Which basically, the right hand steals back what the left hand giveth, right? But what we're going to do instead is as long as if this plan is adopted and voted by the users, we're going to remove all inflation during the time this is going. So that's 0% inflation.
It's amazing.
So imagine 0% inflation, you get 30% return on investment on what you stake in Rex up to.
It just creates value, right? It creates a token which can't not go up. Like if it's fixed supply, it's a fixed amount, and there's, you're getting rewarded more of a fixed supply. It's, if the price stays the same, you're just going to make a good return.
Exactly, and that is our hope, and that's our intent, and that's probably what the economics suggest. And then what that does is it means that when the money that we do spend, it starts a virtuous circle or virtuous cycle where we vote for something on worker proposal system, and suddenly that comes in and increases the value of Telos, and so then we have more funds to do this. to do this with. And as the value of Telos goes up, we're planning for the block producers on Telos to ratchet down the spending, right? If we spent at these levels right now, it could go 2 or 3 years. But as Telos increases in price, the TLOS token increases in price, we can ratchet this down. I believe this could probably go up to 10 years, depending on how many people claim their Telos accounts and things like that. You know,
long-term plan. Then yeah, it's good. Long-term vision.
That's the. I mean, yeah, 10 years in crypto is, you know, it's
a whole lifetime, man. It's like, really, to be honest, like, obviously Bitcoin's been around for probably like 12 years, but this whole, you know, EOSIO Ethereum space is less than 5 years old. So it's like nothing in comparison to other markets, just brand new asset classes. So that's why it's so exciting in these kind of projects. But yeah, I
mean, if we could have if we can do this through, you know, reasonable management, it could last 5 years, but it means that a lot of the exchanges on tokens actually get claimed, and a lot of the people coming in who have Telos, you know, who we created Telos accounts for, but haven't ever claimed those. If those people come in because they have a year to do that, and that's almost half up, I would almost rather have shorter duration, but include more people, right?
Exactly. But yeah, it's super. I've probably shown it a few times on the screen, but like, there's just so much stuff in this. And I think I was saying to you earlier before the recording, like, you know, EOS has got its own way, and it's quite like kind of a little bit more of a Wild West chain. It's like a little bit more like, I would say there's just like so much stuff happening. There's loads of, you know, proposals which haven't actually happened, which were supposed to happen. Which one of them was the Welcome Proposal Fund actually being used? That obviously got burnt last week. But I was saying how it's like the testing ground, like this is where you can mold and change all these things. Like, what do you think like the best thing about Telos is at the moment in comparison to EOS, for instance?
Well, I think the best thing about it actually is the community. There's a very passionate community. The people who are there are really there for the right reasons, because it hasn't to date been a great speculator coin. People aren't there to speculate. They're really there. We're all drinking the Kool-Aid. We all believe, I feel like, that there is going to be a future internet, and that this is our chance to you know, make sure that people have it. I'm old enough that I remember when the first internet came in, and everyone was saying that, oh, it's going to be the world's greatest democratizing force, and suddenly the power will go to the people. You know, people said that, and with a straight face. But, you know, flash forward now, you know,
it's the complete opposite.
You know, Facebook and Cambridge Analytica and Google and its own. And one of the reasons that I got into this at this level, right? So I kind of hung out in crypto as a while as just, mining and doing some proof of stake and things like that, and also doing developing, but sort of with my head down and never putting my name on anything. And I realized a couple of years ago that really the way to move this forward was to get in there and really try to keep the sort of the peer-to-peer vision alive, because what I saw happening was the same consolidating forces that we saw in the internet, right? Turning it from from a democratizing person-to-person force for good for the whole world, and now it's just used to rig elections and influence people and appeal to their basis.
I think it was the way it was built. Like, the internet's obviously an incredible tool. We wouldn't have blockchain without it, right? But it's kind of the way it was built was just like quite insecure, wasn't it? That it wasn't decentralized. The internet in itself is decentralized, right? But then it's like the people who are actually supplying the internet isn't, like the DSN itself. Like, DSN isn't centralized at all. So that's a whole nother kettle of fish with the whole EOS DSN. What's Telos doing about that kind of stuff? Well, like your own DSN servers and stuff, would that be interesting in the future?
Well, let me talk about decentralization just for a second, because we are, and I believe that we're going to have, we have the same ability to put together, a domain name server type service on chain. We will do that. The question is just, I think what we're doing mainly is we are seeing who is going to, which of the people who are providing those on a sort of a standard level are interested in supporting Telos, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. But even though we have a really great Telos core developers group, there's a lot of things we want to tackle. So we also don't want to have somebody come up with a great idea and then try to eat their lunch on it. But but if they don't support Telos, we definitely have the capacity to just build all that ourselves, right? So that's kind of our approach. Regarding decentralization, that's actually a really exciting thing about Telos. So it is actually arguably the most decentralized of all blockchains in two ways, right? So you look at decentralization, that mainly means what's the economic side of the decentralization, and what's the that node validating side, right? So from the economic side, what we did, and there's a graph on the Telos Foundation, telosfoundation.io that comes up. Basically, what we did is by capping the massive whale accounts at 40,000, we created the world's most evenly decentralized
distributed chain. Yeah.
Yeah, so that means like it's like the Gini coefficient is how they scientifically measure that. It's much closer to something like a Japan or Sweden than a Russia, United States, sort of Zimbabwe kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So and that means that, and that's important anytime, because when you have that imbalance, it means that even on a chain that doesn't actually have overt governance like we're trying to build on Telos, it means that people can manipulate that through exchange actions. There's a lot of manipulations people can do, like even just placing a big buy wall sell that never actually executed can still drive prices down. There's a million ways to skin a cat in manipulating the markets.
It's interesting you did that. Yeah, I think it's really cool, because it's like with sorry for interrupting, but like it's like with the whole with the cutting down of the whales, right? Like it obviously has made it so I think it's like 80% of most tokens are in the top, whatever. Block one have 100 million tokens. That's like the main one. So it's like
that we know about.
It must be more decentralized.
I bet they have at least one more than that.
Yeah, they must do. Like Dan Larimer's stashing away another 50 mil, man, 100%.
They must have at least one more EOS than that. So whether it's 1, 2, or another 10%, we don't know. But.
Exactly, but it's like the thing is with EOS doing that, it's like I would struggle to see EOS do that because of Block One. So it's such a different dynamic, right? Because if Block One said we're going to allow the chain to cap people at 40K, it would just mean they wouldn't have any power in the chain anymore. So it's like Telos has done something which is like so flat, so even.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we needed to do that. And the thing that, again, I'm very, very positive on EOS, but I'm more positive on Telos. So I don't want to come across as negative, but what most people won't tell. So if you want to know why they weren't able to vote on how to spend like $160 million.
Happened last week. Yeah.
Arguably that could have been spent better. The reason they could, everyone's kind of mum about why that is, but let's be honest. The reason is because they're afraid that due to the economic, power disparity in EOS, right, which is what guides voting, that it would simply the people who have the power would simply vote it all to themselves if they were allowed to vote as they are in Telos. That's anyone who knows that will tell you that privately.
That's what will happen.
I'm not involved in EOS as a block producer because I thought it was so important to really, dedicate everything to Telos. But it's very hard. I would be very hard to argue that that's not why they couldn't do that. So creating that flat distribution was huge. And by the way, we did that by cutting. We only capped fewer than 1,100. 1,098 got capped. And what's interesting is because we cut the coin supply by a third, it meant that everyone actually had 3 times more owning power on Telos with the same number of tokens.
Only 1,100 accounts as well. That's tiny.
Yeah, well, but it's not even 1,100. So the 160,000 whatever accounts got 3 times as much. They didn't get capped. 1,100 got a capped, right? But of those, 700 to 800 actually still ended up better off owning more of the chain on Telos than they did on EOS.
Ratio to a total supply.
Yeah, it's 3 times as much. So it was really only 200 to 300 accounts that actually ended up owning less. So that's kind of amazing. So all of that came out of the pockets of those accounts.
Yeah.
And some of those were exchange accounts, which is why we set up this exchange token reserve fund, which unfortunately nobody's drawing from, and so therefore we want to repurpose it for the users who are on board. right? So, and then and really quickly on the other side of how decentralization, why Telos is so decentralized in terms of validating nodes, right? You've got Bitcoin is mined by tens to hundreds of thousands of ASICs, right? But really, it's only about 7 mining pools, and it's very small. EOS, on the other hand, it's a big success story. It has 21 block producers who are doing the validating, right? And that's fantastic. It's much better, right? As long as they are all independent, each in their own independent entity. Telos, though, takes that in the next step further because we regularly rotate in our block producers, our standby block producers. We have 30 that are, so there's 21, just like in EOS, that do the heavy lifting. And then there's 30 that are ready to stand by. And the difference is that they have to be tested every week or two and show for several hours to show they can do it. And then the voters can decide, like, if they can't do it. It also gives them a chance to improve their process, right? Well, so regularly, every month then, about 51 block producers are actually validating the Telos blockchain. So, that means that more block producers have produced blocks on Telos this month.
That's really interesting, yeah.
History of EOS, right? So it takes it even a step further. It's that it expands that EOS success story to further decentralization.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting because at the moment there's 21 block producers on EOS, right? But we have no idea if anyone below 21 is actually even running a node, right? They could be just have a, right? All you have to do is have I don't know exactly what the expression
Mac Mini.
Yeah, all you have to do is like sort of participate in it, get yourself a node server, and then you can be a part of it and not actually make blocks. So I think that's definitely something which will hopefully be integrated into EOS. And it's great that Telos is pioneering through.
There were some really good little resiliency features that once we were doing stuff we added. So we figured test everybody to make sure they can do it, prove it. We kick BPs who are not producing 15% of their blocks, which is actually a really good resiliency feature.
Kick them in the balls,
We kick them off and then they can re-register. But what it means is when it's a onesie twosie, it doesn't really matter as much. It just keeps everybody honest. But you build network resiliency for worst case scenarios, right? So let's say there's a massive earthquake somewhere and people are going offline or whatever. If enough go offline, it's very hard to get back. So if you kick them as they go offline and rotate in somebody else that can do because they produce every week or two perfectly, then it's just a little bit better. So there's little things. I think down the road, a lot of chains will adopt that. And all our code is open source, so they
Well, that's cool. Yeah, if you give me a link, I'll put it in your description because I think people will be interested to see how actually the rotation works. If it's completely random or it's on a rotor, but I'll put that in the description because we could just talk for ages about that. But the next question I got for you, Doug, is so the Telos roadmap. This, you've obviously just announced something massive. This is a whole load of work. This is probably 6 months worth of work thinking about it, implementing all that kind of stuff. And then what's coming next? What's on the roadmap? What's the future for the next 5 years? What are your big grand ideas you've got in your head?
Absolutely. Well, great question. I love talking about that. So we are, our governance, we really feel like a lot of that is off to a really good start. This will be our first thing that we actually vote on. The arbitrators have been elected and we have the world's first and only 100% smart contract managed arbitration system to go with the world's first and only 100% smart contract operated worker proposal system.
Sounds great, bro.
Yeah, the governance, actually, the way that we will change, the way we do our ratify amend is really interesting. Everything is stored on chain, each clause of each document. And when you propose it, you propose a document that would replace the current one. And if it is voted in, it just automatically replaces it, and that becomes the governance. So no one's ever done that. It's the most advanced in that way too. It's super exciting. So those things, keeping people understanding what's going on, building the community is very important. But on the economic side, we're doing this plan. We want to implement this. It takes 29 days to vote for it. So my hope is that over the next 7 to 10 days, we will get great community feedback and then actually put it to a vote. It's a 29-day, 5 million block vote, and that'll be exciting. But over the longer term, or even in the midterm, we were just the Telos Foundations sponsored something called the Global Blockchain Expo in London, which had 12,000 participants over 2 days. Fantastic. And we got a chance to talk to a lot of enterprise computing people, and really, so the dream, right? The dream is these decentralized apps and token economies and things like Karma and Higher Vibes and all these things, which are going to be fantastic, right? But even best case, like even if we go crazy, it's going to be a couple of years before like these are really drivers. In the meantime, there are enterprise businesses that have millions to tens of millions of customers, right? To hundreds of millions of customers, who could use our services in a less glamorous, less futuristic, but still very real and important way, that could grow into, it's equally likely to
the
grow
stepping stones like into it.
Yeah, become more decentralized, right? Become more of a token economy, right? Right now, it's writing, IoT data and things like that, and writing business cases and making it immutable and public. It's a really great use case for some, and so when we saw that, I had a chance to speak there. We had a great response. I spoke for 10. You'll believe this. I was slated for 10 minutes. I ended up speaking for 15 minutes with Q&A afterwards.
Love it.
And go along, and then I had over an hour of people lined up to talk to me about Telos afterwards, because we were the only EOSIO chain there. And so we were representing for all of EOSIO, and people are very excited. There's a picture somewhere of the Ethereum Council, and
it was just like, no.
Nobody was like, the guy was like playing something on his phone. So, so we want to go. So Telos is going to go after that, and what we found out that we need to have a few other structures that in place to be able to interface with those businesses, and so we're building that, and I'm very excited about that. I wouldn't be surprised if we could announce something about that very soon. And that will frankly be almost as exciting as this economic development plan. But then also, my company, Goodblock, is coming out with a game that's going to be the first great game in blockchain called Draco's Keep. It's coming out this summer. We have a video out there about it. We have a really strong background in working for many of the top game and licensed products in the world, like Disney and Pokemon.
Send it over, bro. I'll do a review. Maxed app. I'm always here for you, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get you we'll sneak you a little bit of some of our playable.
I'll get some live gameplay, the whole thing. Be playing it, loving it,
it's
man.
Great. We were playing it on mobile last night, and it just. More animation, more features, more. These dragons, by the way, are cool.
Has it got like a token economy and like a way you can earn from it, or is it just like block? What's the idea?
Yeah. So these our dragons. Our primary asset is these dragons. It's NFT dragon. Trillion possible combinations. We've hired several of the most the best fantasy artists in the world. So everything is like, so imagine like your dragon, instead of being some 3D thing, which is great and other stuff, but our vibe is it's like you got the Dungeon Master manual, and your dragon is the front cover painting, right? It's unique. No one else has it. It starts out as an egg. It becomes a hatchling, a juvenile, an adult, an elder, and an ancient. And it's like every new, like, if for people who love playing like Pokemon and want to be there.
I was going to say, it sounds like Pokemon,
Yeah, levels up. This is going to be that to the nth degree, right? As you play, your dragon gets more powerful. There's a skills tree that you can go and you can get new skills, and this is absolutely not a play to win. We are very accomplished game designers, so we're not designing that. But the better your dragon, you'll go up against better dragons. We'll have matchmaking and things like that.
Super exciting, man. Send it over.
Yeah, as you level up your dragon, right, then it becomes more valuable, and there's going to be a market where people are buying these and breeding their own. And I personally think that there will be a number of people who can just actually make their living off playing Draco's Keep.
That's what I say, man. Yeah, it's play to, it's going to be earn to play. Well, no, sorry, play to earn, and then
play to earn. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it even links back to the economic Telos fundamentals of the whole system, right? If you can have anything which has a fixed amount, is supply and demand. If there's a lot of people who want to play the game, there's only a fixed amount of a certain thing, a token, an NFT, SNT. it just creates an economy. So every game's gonna have its own economy. It's so exciting.
Yep.
It's like,
yeah, and there's, some of these dragons will be more rare than, I mean, there'll be a whole thing of rarity, right? So we're spending, it's amazing how much time goes into actually designing the NFT, the breeding, the rarity. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but fortunately we've got a lot of smart math people and game makers and experience, and we're testing these out. So very excited. Like, frankly, I think if nothing else, Draco's Keep in a couple of months is going to bring a whole lot of people onto Telos, because it's going to be on Telos. It's the only place.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Got to have an account, man. No, it's super exciting. Like, there's just sounds like you got so much stuff going on, Douglas. And even going back, like you said, there was 12,000 people at the expo. That's like double the amount of consensus. I swear consensus was like 8,000. So nearly double the amount of people at the World Expo, which EOS. So if you use those metrics, there's more people building on EOS IO things, not just EOS. EOS IO software in general, man. It's just fast. It's cheap and it's free. Yeah, everything like it's
right. Well, that to be clear, that conference was not an EOSIO. We were the only ones.
Okay.
It was actually built in 4 things. There's a blockchain component, an IoT component, a big data component, and a machine learning AI.
Okay, yeah. It's like an encompassing one. Yeah.
What's great about that is we actually went out to all these people, right? We kind of like got outside the bubble, right? And it was great. And we talked to IoT people, we talked to machine learning people. All of these things have a high affinity for what blockchain can offer, especially if you can remove transactions so that micropayments work and things like that. So you might want to link to this article where I got interviewed. It was very, very exciting about people finally getting why all these POCs that got made on Ethereum never got rolled out into anything. It's because people knew that the platform couldn't support it, and so the minute they rolled out their solution would die because users. CryptoKitties squashed.
Yeah.
So
and even that, it was like everyone says it was a big deal, but it went up to 2,000 users daily. Like, that's still nothing. Like 2,000 users, like what's that? That's like you can do a marketing campaign in like Uganda and get more than that. It's like it's just you can get it anywhere.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it just never could scale, and people knew it in their heart. And so, but with EOSIO, finally, where they're saying, wait a minute, it's half-second block times and essentially unlimited capacity and no per transaction fee, and all we have to do is stake a bunch of the token, and it's not consumed. And there was a line. That's why if you see those pictures of the Telos Foundation booth, all day, every day, it was just people, and there were like 8 to 10 of us there, and everyone was just there was like a queue behind everybody. It was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so good, because I went to a conference like that as well, which was like you would go out of the bubble, and then I was talking to like big data people, IoT, like Internet of Things. I was talking to like people who actually make the cords for like fiber and stuff, and they're like, so what's this blockchain? I'm like, yeah, well this is what the blockchain is going to be running through, man. Like these cords and that all of this whole thing. And we all get a little bit caught up just in EOSIO, but everything's going to come together. All of these different industries are all going to be wrapped into one mesh of a big internet bubble of crazy assets online.
So absolutely. Think about it like, if we can just provide the micro payments and the data recordation and whatnot, and the update pushes for all these IoT things, that's a huge amount of data. We have proof of concepts on Telos that are running right now, and that we were able to demonstrate to people. And they're like, wow, that's, this is decentralized. This is great. Not everybody wants it decentralized, but enough do that it's a massive market. And then let's say you take that data, and then you talk to people, and you take that data, and then you go, hey, suddenly we've got all this IoT data on the chain. We need a big data, solution. You should come and work on it. Or we need an AI machine learning way to better apply these things. So people get it, and the marriage of these technologies is going to happen. So once we got outside the sort of the EOSIO bubble, or the blockchain bubble, where everyone's kind of like vying for a very small piece, and we go, wow, this world is huge, right? And they're hungry, and no one's been able to offer what we're able to offer. It just was eye-opening. And so we're actually going to a very similar version of the event in Amsterdam next month. And because it's a chance to talk to a whole new group of people, and it's very exciting. I think it's going to really bring a lot of businesses to Telos.
Yeah, man. It's so exciting, bro. Like all of these things we're talking about, it's awesome. But we've gone for about, I don't know how long we've gone for, probably about an hour, about an hour-ish now. But yeah, no, we can carry, to be honest, we'll definitely do another one of these. We'll do one maybe on a different channel. We'll do another one on EOSwriter, whatever. And just do like a deep dive and just talking general crypto stuff, because I think it's quite interesting talking to you anyway. But the last, yeah, it's been really fun, man. And then the last one, last question I just got is how can guys get involved with Telos? How can you like register for worker proposal funds? How can you build? How can you do that kind of stuff?
Great question. So first thing is, if you're in the EOSIO world, you may already have an account, right, on Telos. So there was no airdrop, there was no air grab. We just said every account that was on the EOS Genesis is going to be, we're going to just recreate with your own keys. So you can go check out a block explorer like EOSX and telos.eosx.io and just look and see if your account's there. Maybe there you can just claim it with whatever wallet you like, because all the wallets are now supporting Telos. You can, and so you can jump in there. If you have your tokens were on an exchange at the time, then you should talk to your exchange and say, hey, we want our Telos. People are, once enough people tell them and the price goes up, they'll do it. They will get it. Yeah. So you can also buy in very easily. It's ridiculously inexpensive right now. I mean, for a chain that is, technically comparable with EOS, to have the token is about 1/100 of the price, but since each token is actually worth 3 EOS tokens in powers, because of the token supply, it's basically 1/300th the EOS price.
Like the ratio of value,
yeah, not to shill, but I think that people usually do some kind of arbitrage and go, well, this is going to be at least, a 1/10, right? That's a 30x for that alone. So it's really easy to get, if you go to telosfoundation.io, there's a list of our exchanges that include CoinTiger, AKDEX, brand new Dex just launched it. A lot of people use that.
Oh, what is New Dex got Telos now?
Yeah. You have to go to side chains and then it's Telos. Yeah.
It is. I was going to ask actually, just one more quick question. So you can get it on the Squirrel. I think it's called the Squirrel wallet. You can use that.
It's a gray mass. It's a version of gray mass. But EOS Miami, Telos Miami, they've done a lot of work to include all the governance features, so you can do all this voting and proposing and signing up for a worker proposal to get your own funds, things like that, right from Squirrel, very, very easily.
Yeah, I'm just loading up now. It looks good. I'll put it on the screen. But I was gonna, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So like, what's the, there's a lot of like, Bancor, for instance, you can kind of like, now you can just like one click, you can just get Telos. Well, if it's on there, you can get any token on EOS. Is it because Telos is the same chain as EOS? Surely you could just do really cool atomic swaps really simply, right? Is that coming?
Well, I mean, it's a different, it is technically a different chain, right? It's the same code. And that is all coming. That is all coming. It's not, like people need to, there's some IBC solutions that need to happen, and we want to make sure it's the best one. In fact, right now there's a proposal for an IBC solution on WPS, but we want to make sure that the right one is the first one, right?
There's a few games now which have they have EOS, Telos, Boss, mostly gambling casinos, but it's like, you know what I mean? This is what stuff is looking like.
Yeah, and there's a couple things like so Edna started out on EOS, and it's now, and then it decided to also deploy on Telos because there's a good chance that we could deliver some services less expensively. So at the moment it's on both chains, and you can teleport your Edna tokens back and forth between EOS and Telos. So I think you'll see more of that. That type of thing.
Super exciting. Well, what's the Telegram? I'll put it on the screen now. What's the Telegram for Telos?
It's at Hello Telos.
Perfect.
Yeah,
sweet. Guys, get on board. Go get on the Telegram group. And generally, just in my opinion, I've heard really good things. It's a really good testing ground. Sebastian van der Lans speak very highly of the Work Proposal Fund, and I think EOS can learn a lot from the way that Douglas has written this. This is his thing. We can learn a lot from what they're building in Telos, because I think I think you do get, it's quite a big project. Most people, I think everyone in EOS knows what Telos is. It's not like it's small or anything. Like it's a big deal. But I think people should like take a real look at what you're building, man. It's really cool.
I hope so. I hope so. We're trying to give everybody a reason to, right? We're trying to give people who are excited about the governance a reason to, who are excited about the technology a reason to, and now with the Telos Economic Development Plan, people who are interested in the speculative value of the coin, a real reason to get on board.
Sweet. I think we'll wrap it up there. We've done about an hour and 20. I don't know, maybe about that. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. Like I always say, guys, like, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to keep getting this kind of content. We get people like Douglas on all the time. We've got some great videos coming up in the next few weeks. But yeah, thanks again. I'll sign out. Thanks for coming on, Doug. And really, we'll do it again sometime.
Thank you very much. It was great being here. Really appreciate it. Great podcast.
Love it. Okay, sweet. See you guys later.